It is the Redhawks Coaches Show from Wings Etc. We are in Cape Girardeau, and I believe that this is going to be the final show of the basketball season, because even if the Redhawks win the OVC Tournament, go to the NCAAs, they'll be traveling most likely next Monday. So this is going to be it. This is our penultimate show here at Wings Etc. And we want to remind you, and if you're a Wings Etc. junkie, then you already know this, but their award-winning jumbo wings are not the only thing that they are known for. Their burger menu is marvelous here at Wings Etc. And in addition to the burger menu, they have wrapped subs, quesadillas, entree salads. If you're in the mood for an appetizer, their ultimate nacho platter is massive, and their deep-fried pickle chips are a fan favorite, along with their delicious pretzel bite. If you're coming for lunch, their daily half-pound lunch specials start at just $9.99. And if you would like to earn some rewards on purchasing your Wings Etc. menu, you can do that. All you need to do, download the Wings Etc. loyalty app. It is a free download from your app store, and you will get points for every purchase that you make. And if you'd like to have it delivered, you can do that right through the Wings Etc. loyalty app. It is the home of the Redhawks Coaches Show, Wings Etc. Good food and great times. Let's welcome in who we know will be the Ohio Valley Conference Coach of the Year, most likely in a unanimous vote, coach of the Ohio Valley Conference Champions, Brad Korn, in the house. How are things, Coach? Food tasting a little better these days?
No, we just lost, Eric.
Wow.
But I appreciate you saying those nice things. But in all seriousness, we were competitive. Just was one of those games. Eastern's playing well. They play well at home. They were geared up. We literally did not lose in the month of February. And so you win 10 straight. It's hard to just keep running on those highs. And then the way that we played Thursday night, and just the culmination of getting it outright, I just think at the end of the day it took its toll. And Eastern's a physical team, and we just did not. It's a tie game with 5 minutes to go. Just rewatching it again over the weekend and this morning, it just we just played too uncharacteristic for us offensively. But we had our chances, and it is what it is. And thankfully that didn't cost us a outright championship, and thankfully it didn't cost us anything more than to get recalibrated for a good week of prep heading into Friday.
You know, oftentimes it is sometimes fans or media members that will start negatively. A lot of coaches don't. You went right to the negative. So let's get the Eastern game out of the way first of all. So the final score in the game is I don't have the final score. I printed the wrong box score. But it was 58 points.
73-58.
Yes, 73-58. So it's a 58-point scoring output. And if you just go and break the game down, the most turnovers, now your team has committed the fewest turnovers in the conference. You're number one in fewest turnovers. The most turnovers you've had in any conference game, 14, and that was against Tennessee State, a game that you won. The most turnovers you had in any game this year was 18, and that was the Bradley game, the first game of the year, and this team is nowhere near what they were back then as to what they are now. You had 19, so that was the most turnovers you had in a game against Eastern Illinois. Your lowest shooting percentage of the year was the Little Rock game, a game in which you won on the road. You shot 33%. Second lowest shooting total was Saturday. You shot 34%. So those are two things that basically your highest turnover game and your lowest shooting percentage game all coming after you played one of your best complete games against SIU Edwardsville. And no matter what you say as a coach, these are young people. They know the implications of that game really meant nothing. You'd like to keep the winning streak alive. The big game was Thursday, and they just blew SIUE off the floor.
Yeah, it's just I think that's been the characteristic of this team all season long, Eric, is their competitiveness and knowing what's at stake, and then going and playing the way that's going to drive winning for our group. And there's a lot of different ways to win a basketball game, but the constants for our group have to remain the same thing, and that's taking care of the basketball. Now, I was looking at some statistics this morning. We're not a great rebounding team as it relates to statistics, but it's twofold. We are a pretty good defensive rebounding percentage team. So for the most part, for the defensive rebounding percentage, I think we're second in the league. So we're getting defensive rebounds when we need to. We're really, really poor in offensive rebounds, but we're also first in the league in field goal percentage. So there's not as many opportunities to rebound. So my point is I'd rather be a really good, efficient offensive team and lack in some rebounding as opposed to being this great rebounding team, but you can't score. So all statistics intertwine and interrelate to one another, just like the statistics when we lose. Again, that's not indicative and not the best formula for our team the way that we played against Eastern Illinois because we turned the basketball over. We weren't assisting the basketball. And I think a lot of that had to do with the way that Eastern Illinois was defending us, and they took us out of a lot of things. They were very, very physical. We did not get many paint scores, and so now we relied on the jump shot too much. We shot 17 threes in the first half, which is a big number. We shoot threes, and we shoot them well, but that's a big number, especially if they're not going in for us, and that was allowing them to get in transition. And then turnovers, obviously, you're allowing them to get in transition. So a team that needs your help by getting more possessions, because Eastern doesn't score the basketball overly well, we gave them so many more opportunities, which allowed them to build a little bit of a lead, and then our offense was just kind of out of kilter and out of whack. So it just was one of those games, and give them credit for being able to play that way, and they've won 4 straight. Obviously, their senior night and all that type of stuff. We didn't get enough rhythm early in the game, but we were ready to play. You know, the first 2-3 minutes of the game, Teddy and Rob both dive on the floor for loose balls. And so if we were ever going to come in Hollywood and thinking that the game didn't matter, we did not play that way the entire game. So again, we want to stay sharp. We wanted to win the basketball game. We weren't playing to just be there. If that was the case, we could have just got on the bus and went home and forfeited. But you only have so many games in your career as it relates to a player. So who am I to try to hold them back or not stay sharp or worried about this? You got to go play. And we did, and we got beat. And it's now we got to understand that if we do it again, not going to be the best feeling in the world for this group, because this group does deserve to play postseason basketball, whatever that looks like, because we are a good team. I think we've lost 5 games since the Murray State game total. So we're playing really good basketball. We just didn't have the greatest 2-hour window on that Saturday. So our guys, we understand what'll be on the line Friday night, and then hopefully you take care of that, and then Saturday. So we got a 2-game tournament, but there's never a second game if you don't get the first one.
All right. Our last conversation about Eastern Illinois is Teddy Washington. First of all, he left the game early, and it was clearly his lower back. He was on his knees on the bench, on a chair. He was stretching out his back. He was grabbing at his back a couple of times when he came in, and then collides knees down on the baseline. Could not walk off the floor on his own. You were under one arm. B.J. Smith was under the other arm. Took him off the floor to the trainer's table. They worked on the knee. He came back in. You could tell he was favoring the knee. He ended up leaving the basketball game. Afterwards, you didn't seem to think it was serious. What do you know today?
He's just sore.
Okay.
Teddy's old man, been around the block a few times, so I think he'd be sore today regardless, and the way that he plays. Like I said, first 2 minutes of the game, he's diving on the floor for a loose ball. So he's a competitor, so he's sore, but I don't anticipate anything other than just a little bit slow moving probably today, tomorrow, but there's no structural. Go back and watching it. It just looked like a little bit of knee right on the, maybe not even necessarily the knee to knee, but knee to shin, almost kind of on that high part of the knee. So I think it's just typical bone bruise type things. And he went back in. He was kind of limping around. I was like, man, now we're talking a different kind of strategy, because again, hey, yes, we want to be competitive. We're going to try to win the basketball game, but now I also have to save you from yourself, Teddy. So I pulled him out, and then he just was we said after the game, he said, hey, let me just go a couple more minutes to see if it'll warm up and be okay. And, I'm going to trust my guys, and I trust them to be truthful to me. And so he said he wanted to give it a go, so we put him back out there, and he felt fine, and he finished the game until he fouled out. So again, nothing crazy there, and I fully anticipate him to be full go later this afternoon, if not tomorrow.
And Teddy was involved in a little dust up On the floor, it looked like I think it was R.T. Stapleton. They got a little physical. He was called for a foul. There was some chirping going back and forth. The officials rush in, kind of, okay, guys, we're gonna dial this down. But Teddy was pretty fired up, at least at that moment. He's a high energy guy.
He is, and again, he's ultra competitive, and I think that's been the calling card of this group. They're really, really competitive guys. And you look at it too, Eric, from Rob to BJ to Stack to David to TJ. The guys that came back from a year ago, we took some licks last year, and so and Teddy's had been told, hey, you may not be good enough, or you're these guys hear a lot of this stuff, and so when you go and play the way that you play and you're able to back it up, it's that old saying, you're not going to take anything from anybody because they've put in the work, and so as long as we don't cross that line. I'm perfectly fine with our guys competing because you have to compete with an edge. There is a cost to winning, and it's you got to put it all out there if you're going to have any kind of chance. And so these guys do. They compete, and every now and again it gets a little bit over the top. But for the most part, I thought overall for the league, though, it was a really good league, top to bottom as far as the competitive nature of everybody, and nothing in our 20 games that we've played with each guy, nothing ever got crazy. Guys are competitive and they're competing and they're young men, and let's go.
So SEMO goes to Division I in 1991. It is one Ohio Valley Conference regular season championship. That was the 99-2000 team, and they shared that championship with Murray State. That year, SEMO did not have a single all-conference player voted onto the all-conference team, believe it or not. Their leading scorer, Roderick Johnson, I think, was voted second team, and that was it. And I think Michael Stokes may have been third team back in the day. They had third team all-conference. They got rid of that. I don't know why the OVC does that, because you look at leagues like the Missouri Valley. It's all bench team. I mean, they've got all kinds of awards, but the OVC is taking awards away. That's a completely different story. But that year, they shared the league title with Murray State. And lost to Murray State on a buzzer beater in the OVC Tournament championship game the year before in 98-99. They didn't win the league, but they made it to the title game, lost on a buzzer beater in Bud Ely's last game. Then in 99-2000, they handled Murray State and went to the tournament. Had not gone back until you took them 2 years ago, but they'd never won an outright championship, and you clinched it on Thursday night at SIU Edwardsville, and it really wasn't as competitive as a lot of people thought that it might be. You're up 13 at halftime. You end up beating them by 15 points in the game. It's 83-68, and the best two players in the league perform like the best two players in the league. Rayshawn Taylor, 30 points. Rob Martin outscored him, scoring 31. That was a heck of a game. Your players knew in that game, unlike the Eastern Illinois game, this is the game. This is a team that is trying to tie us for the regular season title. And you put those hopes really to bed at halftime.
Yeah, it was you could just feel kind of the build. Of course, yes, we had clinched at least a share. But again, I keep saying it about this group. One, that they allow us to coach them, but then two, that they're hyper competitive. So they knew, and they wanted that game. And you want to play, and again, not that Eastern Illinois isn't good, but of course, the buildup of that, biggest crowd in 8 years for them, and all the hoopla that goes into that, and St. Louis guys and Rayshawn, there's a lot of just internal, just excited to play type of a mindset going into that. So again, a lot of it is just you just got to get out of the way. And the last two games, just me personally, I know I was really on edge the first 10 minutes of that game. One, I wanted to send a message to our guys that I feel as important about this game as you guys do. But then two, that we're not going to get controlled one way or the other just because we're on the road. And so there's a lot of gamesmanship, sportsman, whatever you want to call it, philosophy that'll go into it, more so than just the X's and the O's. Because again, at this point in the year, Edwardsville knows us better than we know ourselves. We know Edwardsville better than they know themselves. So it really was just more of that. And our guys were hooked up and ready to go. And BT, Brendan Terry, didn't even play that well. Obviously, foul trouble. And so again, I think that speaks to the volume and the characteristics again of this team and what we can be.
And what you're saying, Brendan Terry was just named Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Week.
Yeah.
He had scored 52 points in his previous 2 games, or 49 points in his previous 2 games. So you got the player of the week. He played 1 minute and 45 seconds in the first half because he was on the bench immediately with foul trouble.
And that was the good thing. That was what was so exciting, about that game. Of course, yeah, we win, but then you're still able to find ways to win and score the ball even without one of our better guys. I mean, I think Brendan's been an all-league guy. Obviously, Rob, is in the conversation, if not the player of the year in the league. And Teddy, obviously, but BJ's got a great role on our team of being a defensive guy. He gets the best best offensive player every game. So we just have a lot of nice roles and a lot of nice niches. But you look at statistically what Teddy's statistical offensive numbers percentage-wise aren't the best. But also I think he's top 15 in the league, or top 20 at least in rebounding as a 6'2", 170-pound guy. Brendan Terry shot 45% from the free throw line in junior college basketball. He's now up to 68%, and he's only maybe 5 turnovers upside down, assist turnovers. So if you look at centers and big guys, it's typically very lopsided between the assist turnovers. So if you really look at the numbers,
and he's top 10 in block shots in conference games.
Brendan is?
Yes.
And that's what makes me excited, too, because we don't have any players here today. But after being named Player of the Week, he took this last week off, so he should be fresh for the conference tournament. And, but if you look at Rob's numbers, I mean, Rob is 50. He's almost a 50-40-90 guy and a 3-to-1 assist turnover. And his team won the league by 2 games. And so, again, what are we really talking about? And we can have this debate all day long about who's the best player. Is it MVP? Is it this? Is it that? Whatever the case may be, I guarantee you Tom Brady will give you all of his MVPs as long as you don't take away his championship trophies. And so to me, the greatest MVP award for all of our players is to be that outright champion for the first time in school history.
Cam Newton, though, would take the MVP over the Super Bowl. He said that out loud on ESPN. All right, who had the best year? Who is the player of the year in the Ohio Valley Conference? We'll find out tomorrow. The voting will be released. Let's just look at it, shall we? Rayshawn Taylor and Rob Martin. Okay, Rayshawn Taylor won the scoring title in the league. He is a terrific scorer. He's a fifth-year guy, 2 ACL tears. His second ACL tear happened at the Show Me Center, actually, believe it or not. So Rayshawn Taylor, and we're going in the 20 conference games. Everybody plays the same opposition. We're going with conference-only numbers because you can't win the conference championship if you don't put up conference numbers. So that's what we're looking at. Rayshawn Taylor, number 1 in the league at 20 per game. Rob Martin, 5th, 16 per game. So Martin takes a back seat to Rayshawn Taylor in terms of scoring, 1st in the league to 5th in the league. Rob Martin, number 1 in assists by a wide margin. He has 44 more assists than Taylor, who is 9th in assists in the Ohio Valley Conference. Assist to turnover ratio in the conference, and that belongs to Rob Martin. Number 1 in the league, Rayshawn Taylor, 9th. Rayshawn Taylor, 60 assists to 51 turnovers. He has 9 more assists. Rob Martin, 104 assists, 40 turnovers. If it was a boxing match, they would stop the fight in that particular category. All right, Rayshawn Taylor is known for his three-point shooting. Okay, he hit more threes than Rob Martin did. Rob Martin hits 34. Taylor hit 49. Okay. Number 1 in made three-pointers for his team. Now, he didn't rank number 1 in the conference. Okay, it's one thing to make the threes, make a lot of them. Are you a volume shooter or are you an accurate shooter? Here is the three-point shooting percentage. Rayshawn Taylor, 33%. 33. Rob Martin, 46%. They would again stop the fight. Free throw percentage. Overall for the year, Rayshawn Taylor's the number 1 free throw shooter in the league. Okay, in conference games, Taylor shot 84% from the free throw line. 84. Rob Martin, 86. Again, Martin better from the free throw line than Taylor, although Taylor has shot many more free throws than Rob Martin. But Rob Martin is more reliable at the free throw line. And one category that Taylor does beat Rob Martin in, rebounding, it's 4.5 for Taylor. It's 2.3 for Rob Martin. So if we go through all of that, three-point shooting, free throw percentage, assist to turnover ratio, Rob Martin number one. And when it comes to scoring, it's 20 points to 16 points. Taylor to Martin. And my experience over the years in the OVC, the voters look at scoring. I just gave you all the numbers, and you can make a strong case for Rob Martin, whose team won the league by 2 full games over Taylor's team, being the player of the year.
Amen.
I mean, people are going to see the voting. Now they know the numbers. I mean, that's what you're. And as a voter, you're supposed to look at those numbers. You're supposed, as a voter, the coaches vote, and the sports information director / athletic communication directors vote. And so. And
we can't vote for our own.
That's
so. Of course, you're probably, for all intents and purposes, splitting that vote. So they don't release, at least to my knowledge, who votes for who and all that. But I don't. There's nothing. You can't control that stuff. So again, as a coach, you're always going to take the high road and say the coach speak thing that you're supposed to say. But again, there's who's to say one over the other? Maybe it's a co. Maybe it should be a co just because the numbers are close. I think Rayshon's got Rob beat in steals. I think Rayshon led the league in steals. And obviously, Ray's a hell of a player. So again, it's not that one guy's this or one guy's that. I think our system allows for a lot of those statistics to be that way for Rob. We have a very nice system, and Rob is surrounded by other really good players. That's why you won the league. We didn't win the league just because of Rob. We don't win the league just because of Teddy or just because of Brendan or BJ. It's obviously the team award. So again, as a coach, that's why you're always driving it home that it's about the team and about winning, because I don't know what you get for player of the year, but I know what you get for winning the conference, and that's a ring that never goes away. And again, you're always trying to. Again, you put in a lot of work. Would Rob want to be player of the year? Would Teddy want to be player of the year? Would I want to be coach of the year? Would Coach Baroni want to be Of course you would want some of those things, but I promise you, because you don't play the way that we play and have the statistics that we have, if it was only about that, we wouldn't have won the league. And so again, I'm really proud of our guys. Whatever the awards come out to be, we had a great year, and it's a good team. And you can't control what other people think of you, and if you spend your time worrying about that, you're going to be in for a long, long life. So we control what we can control, and at the end of the day, there's 2 games here in Evansville that can really stamp and solidify a lot of things, personally and collectively. So that's what we'll keep our focus on. It's obviously easy and fun to talk about.
Do you think this happens? You've been around the game a long time. Coaches and communication directors vote for all conference and players of the year. If you can't vote for your own guy, could it be possible that your guy you believe is the player of the year, and you know who his biggest challenger is? In this instance, it's Taylor and Rob Martin. So if you're Rayshon Taylor's coach, might you say, all right, I don't want to cast a vote for a guy who may catch him because of my vote. I'm voting for Jonathan Lawson at Little Rock, and I'm going to have my communication director cast the same vote. You've been around a long time. Do things like that happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I firmly believe that happened a few years ago. We had a player that, in my opinion, should have been freshman of the year, and he wasn't. And I think a lot of that may have been how he was perceived. And so I do think that a lot of those things matter. I'll be honest, and Coach Hans is here, and no offense to him or any other SID, and maybe Hansa can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't know that if Hansa's watched as much film as the coaches have. And so I think somewhat can be unfair, or because it's a 16-point system, I think, for the first place guy, and then it tapers down from there. So to me, it should almost be a coach's award, not to take anything away from SIDs. They're all great, from Tom Weber to Rick Kinehart to Tom Gilbert, Tom, if I didn't say Tom Weber, I think those are all the SIDs I've been around. So they're obviously important because I remember them all just right off the top of my head. So I'm not trying to discount anything that they do. But again, if someone comes in, to use Hans as an example, because he's a good sport, and he's got thick skin, and but if someone comes into the Show Me Center and doesn't play well, and Hans is like, well, he didn't play well, I'm not voting him player of the year.
That's kind of
unfair.
That's my only exposure to him.
Correct.
Was what I saw.
As to where us as coaches, we watch every game, not just the one before. Like, we watch every game. I don't know. That's why we all have bad eyes. You're constantly on the computer watching games. So again, we see if a guy had a bad game or a bad moment. You shouldn't just be judged on one. And that's why I do, like you said, Eric, I only look at conference stats. Because, again, you can't – everyone's non-con is this, it's that. Who knows? It could be injuries or whatnot.
I scored 45 against Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah, and so now that, numbers can get – or you might not score at all because you had to play Mississippi. And so, again, I like the 20 stats, true round robin. I mean, those are the most real stats that you're going to get. Scouting report, bad game, you can bounce back and have another good one. So, these debates never really go away. But the one thing that you can't debate is who's the leader in the clubhouse, and that's the thing that it's hard to do. It's hard to drive that home. And but again, I think guys understand, and they really truly value winning, and they'll really value that when we have a ring ceremony and that banner drops. And and I always make the joke that we hung a banner, but we really hung 10 because the other ones were so old that Brady had to get a bunch of new ones. So to be able to add multiple years to that, I mean, now you're really talking about, hopefully you keep this thing going. And again, I think it's great just that we're even having some of these conversations and debates, because we have a great crowd, almost 4,000 in the Show Me Center our last game. Edwardsville's got near sellout for them, and they're pubbing that thing and pushing that game hard because we showed up. So again, we're getting the Ohio Valley back to where it was maybe before with some other teams. And so if we can continue to do that, that's what's going to make this thing more enjoyable for everybody, from the fans to the players to the coaches. When you have big time, I don't know how many people there, it doesn't matter. As long as the atmosphere is great, it feels like there's so many more people. I think they announced maybe 2,500 for Edwardsville. And if you'd have told me after the game how many people you think were here, I probably would have said like 6,000, just because of the atmosphere and the intensity and the level of play. So as long as we're trending towards that and building the league back up that way, it's been a great finish for the league, from our game at home to Edwardsville's. So again, I think that we can't lose sight of that either. The teams are playing really, really good basketball. Us in Edwardsville, 20 wins. Little Rock's right there. So you want the league to do well, because it just, at the end of the day, that helps everybody. And the only way you help the league do well is have good coaches and good players, and the Ohio Valley has that.
You can tell when a game is a big game and how much it means and intensity level of the players, but you can also tell, in my experience, intensity level of the coaches. Brian Baroni had to be held back by one of his officials at one point because he was on the officials. You weren't held back by your assistants, but you were pretty engaged with the officials. Big game. That always happens in a big game with the coaches. Agreed? Both you and Baroni, I've seen Baroni coach a few times. That is as intense as I've seen him, and close to as intense as I've seen you. Now, you had the lead most of the game, so maybe your intensity level wasn't as high, but it was pretty darn high. Would you agree with that?
It was, and I even felt I was intense at Eastern Illinois, just because I thought if our guys are going to give the effort and respect the game to the level that they were, like I said, Teddy and Rob could have showed up against Eastern and been like, what are we playing this game for? We've already won it. But they're the first two to dive on the floor. And so to me, there's a certain level of respect that you got to give the game. Not that people are disrespecting it, but when you feel that it's maybe not reaching that level by all parties, that's when you get a little bit more animated. Whether that's a guy coming in off the bench, I don't think that, just be honest, Elliott Lowndes was meeting that level. So it's like, come on, Elliott. So it's not, I just feel that everybody should be at the same level, and they were. And I respect those guys a lot, those officials, because they're human too, and they're trying to make the best play that they can make on every single time. And you've got this 6'8" skinny dude just yelling at you, and you got this little twerp on the other side, and Brony's a good friend, so I can say that about him. Just jawing at you every single time, and they didn't fall out of frame. They let the game be decided by the players, and that's what you really respect, because it is intense. It is high level. And I thought they did a good job of there's always questionable calls, but they did a good job of keeping both of us at bay, understanding what was at stake, and they let the players make the plays and the decision of the game. And that's what you really like to see.
That Tennessee State game was fun. It was exciting. It was overtime, but it wasn't for the conference titles. Is that the most competitive, intense game you've played in this year, Edwardsville?
The Edwardsville game at Edwardsville?
Yes.
Boy, that's a good question, Eric. Normally not a loss for words too often. I normally can give you a little bit of fluff to get my thoughts, but
I thought it was.
I mean, Little Rock was a highly physical, intense, but it didn't have the same feel because again, it's a bigger gym with not as much noise and fan interaction.
Right.
So Edwardsville was maybe not has been that many more fans, but because of the intimacy and the level of what that game. But I think the Little Rock game was highly intense, and I think that TSU at home was highly.
That's the game
intense.
I just referenced. Yeah, that was great.
So those three were pretty intense. But I'll be honest with you too, Eric. Though to me, the most nervous I was all season long was Western Illinois at home and Lindenwood at home because again those
are games you're favored pretty heavily in. You should win the game by everybody's estimation.
Correct.
And if you stumble, is it going to cost us a conference title?
Correct. And now you put even that much more weight on Edwardsville and Eastern Illinois, and you never know how you're going to play on the road. And we've been a good road team all season long, but
you won the conference on the road because you went 7-3 on the road, and if you want to throw out the EIU game, it was 7-2 on the road. You were 8-2 at home, and one game you weren't competitive. The other game you lost on basically a buzzer beater to Little Rock. So you had to you basically took care of your home, and you won the game. You won the conference by winning all those road games, 7 of them.
Yeah, and there was really, I think the biggest game we lost was Eastern, obviously, and that was it was a tie game with 5 minutes to go, and they made some plays and shots at the end. So the score was bigger than that, but I don't think the score was indicative of what the final was. But Moorhead at home was 11. Little Rock beat you at home on a buzzer beater. We got 2 from TSU, but then if you look at our other losses there, at Martin was 3 points, at Lindenwood was 4 points, and then there was one more in there that we lost that was a close game. So again, really competitive all throughout, and again that speaks to a good team and a well-rounded team and a fundamental team and a well-coached team to have statistical numbers that we do in all categories, not just one. We're not lopsided. And I think you look at not just good teams in the Ohio Valley, but across all of basketball, you've got to be well-rounded in all areas. And it sounds pretty elementary to say that, but it's really hard to do.
All right, so fans have said over the years about what the attendance numbers are at the Show Me Center. Show me a winner, and I'll come out and watch him play. Well, the Redhawks had a winner this year. What were the attendance numbers for the 10 conference games that the Redhawks played? We will talk about it when we come back. Did the fans honor what they said? Show us a winner, and we'll come out and watch him play. I'll give you the attendance numbers when we come back. Quick timeout. We're at the Redhawks Coaches Show, Wings, etc. on SEMO ESPN. It is the Redhawks Coaches Show. We are live from Wings Etc. in Cape Girardeau, our final Coaches Show of the college basketball season. And we want to remind you that they've got the latest and hottest sporting events in high definition at Wings Etc. And they are open 7 days a week, late on the weekends when the games run late. If the Redhawks are on the road and you can't make it, they will always have the Redhawk games on the television, and the big games are coming up on baseball season. You can watch Cardinal baseball and all of the big major league games. The St. Louis Blues are on a run. They're just one game out of a wild card spot in the Western Conference. As we speak, they've won 4 of 5. You can watch Blues hockey right here at Wings Etc., where you need to download the Wings Etc. loyalty app. You get points for all of your orders, and you can even get it delivered now through the Wings Etc. loyalty app. It's the home of the Redhawks Coaches Show. Wings Etc., good food and great times. Coach Brad Korn is our guest. His team just won the outright OVC championship. That means, now every conference is different, Coach, but in the Ohio Valley Conference, the number 1 seed and the number 2 seeds get double byes into the semifinals. One of the reasons behind that, a conference that is normally a one-bid league, and they have gotten 2 in 4 when Murray State and Belmont were in the league. But for the most part, this is a one-bid league, the Ohio Valley Conference, and it's the conference's effort. They want to put their truly best team into the NCAA tournament. So your reward for doing well in the regular season, double bye into the semifinals. There are other conferences that do it. Not all do. The SEC does. Every conference seems to have a different formula, and they invite different amounts of teams. The OVC, of their 11 teams, only 8 get invited. So that means it's a double bye. You need to win 2 games to go to the NCAA tournament. Do you like the format? Do you like the double bye?
I like it that we're the 1 seed. But we've also not been the 1 seed, won 4 games in 4 days. So to me, I don't know. Of course, there's an advantage, and there's a reason why they do it. But again, is that make or break why you're able to win or not win? No. You know, you got to go play the game. So again, I think some teams can handle it. I'd be very interested to hear what some other people think that have been double bye and won or not won. Is it because of that? Is there something you did differently during the week? So again, for me, I've never been a part of a double bye in the Missouri Valley, the Big 12. It was always everybody got to go, and there were no byes. And so this is interesting. But again, I'm not going to make too big a deal of it. We'll try to keep our routine the same because, again, it doesn't matter, Eric, and it sounds like coach speak, but it truly doesn't. Saturday doesn't matter at all. The biggest game of the season is Friday, and so we'll gear everything towards that. And then, you know, hopefully 9:30 at night on Friday, you're preparing for Saturday. So to me, we'll treat it. We have 1 game season. Everybody does once we've hit March Madness now. There truly are 1 game seasons now, and so we'll approach it as such, and making sure we're the most prepared team that we can be heading into Friday. Whether that means double bye or whether you're leaving tomorrow to go play 4 games in 4, whatever that looks like for each group, it is what it is, and you have to be the most prepared, ready to go for that team heading into that game, and that's how we'll approach that.
Coaches want routines unbothered. It doesn't look like this routine is going to be bothered much because normally you play Saturday, Thursday. Once you played a Saturday game, now you get 1 Tuesday game during the season. We're not talking about that. Mm-hmm. You go Saturday to Thursday in your prep time. You'll this week go Saturday, Friday. It's only 1 extra day. The one little wrinkle is you don't know who your opponent is going to be on Friday. Now it could be one of 3 teams. You've got Tennessee Tech as the 5. They play the 8 seed UT Martin. The winner of that game plays Little Rock, the 4 seed. So it's Little Rock, Martin, or Tech. You at least know the options of who you're going to play, and you'll know exactly who you're going to play after Thursday night.
Yeah, and then anytime I think we've been a 1 or a 2 seed a couple of times in my career, and everyone always says, "Oh, it's hard to beat a team 3 times." It's hard to beat somebody once. So again, depending upon who we played, no matter if we beat them twice or once or split. To me, Coach Weber used to always say it because we would play Creighton a lot in the Missouri Valley. Like, oh, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Like, Coach, it's hard to beat somebody once. And so again, it doesn't. Again, this is, you've heard me say it time and time again, and coach speak probably gets a little bit mundane for folks, but you truly, literally throw records and statistics and everything out the window. Neutral site. Everybody knows what's at stake as we enter March Madness, and crazy things have happened, as we've seen from 2 years ago over there. No game is ever done. Stats don't matter. You could have somebody just rise up and play unbelievable just because. So again, there's just this little window, and we have to make sure you're the most prepared and the most ready, and really have a true understanding of what makes your team successful. Because again, you can't control what the other team is going to do, or if they come out with a new scheme or gimmick out of a timeout. You got to be ready to play. We saw 4 different defenses against SIUE, and our players handled them beautifully. Hit the middle against the zone. We played inside out against their zone, and we just were able to, anytime they cut it to 9, we were able to just get another score, put it at 11, put it at 13. They just could never get to us. So again, you're going to see that same type of thing in tournament play. Anything is possible. But now, have you worked enough on yourself this week to prepare to get ready for that game in anything, all scenarios? Because again, it's a 40-minute basketball game that you're not guaranteed anything more than that if you don't stick to what got you there in the first place.
I would say the 2 teams that have been the most competitive with you this year, Little Rock. It was a good tight game when you played at Little Rock, and you mentioned the intensity of the game. You did not shoot the ball well, season low 33%, still won the game. And Tennessee State. You beat them twice, but both times it was by 2, and both times they had a shot in the air to beat you, and neither of those shots went, but you beat them by 2 points twice. So on paper, watching the entire 20-game conference season, those are the teams that appeared to match up with you the best during 20 games in a conference season. I do not know what the injury to Brandon Weston is, who's the leading scorer, the best player for Tennessee State. He has not played in a game since February 6th when they played Western Illinois. Coaches talk. Do you know what his injury is?
I don't.
Okay.
I have no idea.
All right. So we don't know if he's going to be available or not. Regardless, they've still played well without him and secured the number 3 seed. But would you agree on paper in terms of matchups, it just appeared to the naked eye those 2 teams have matched up with you better than some of the other teams?
Yeah, I think that the way that Little Rock played at our place was really impressive. And that was during the same week Moorhead. I mean, they had a free fall after pretty much that.
They lost
stretch.
8 games in a row after, and they finally snapped that streak final on Saturday.
And so my point is, like, just when you think you got it figured out, you may not. And so I think that Tennessee State, with their depth and talent, we've always had good games with them. And it seems like we always play them in the conference tournament. I know we have at least 2 of the 4 years that we've been there. And if we play them again this year, Eric, that's a good problem for us to attack, because that means we're playing on Saturday for the championship and the right to go to the NCAA tournament. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Who knows who you're going to play? Because, again, just like we saw with our group, Tech can get hot. UT Martin plays a funky style, and they shoot a bunch of threes. So if they get hot, because once you get into those teams are dangerous, because now you get a little momentum going, and you're in your routine a little bit more. We're sitting over there in the hotel, and so it could be anybody. And again, I think that's the thing that we have to understand. As long as we are, SEMO is the most prepared, and we're right, because I think the best version of us will play anyone anywhere, and that's just got to be our mentality as we head into this thing.
So in one of the very last years of Dave Luce's coaching career, when Austin Peay was in the league, they were the number 8 seed. And you talk about a team getting hot. They were the 8 seed, which means they had to do what you did, win 4 games in 4 days, and they just went nuts. I think they in one game they hit 17 threes, and Coach Luce's granddaughter was suffering from cancer. The entire country knew about that, and I mean they had all this momentum. Coach Luce, is he going to retire after the season? I mean, there were a lot of things working for Austin Peay. It was in Nashville, and they came and won the tournament. They just got hot, and they couldn't miss 3-pointers. They had a rim protector and a rebounder. I mean, and they just got hot. So it can happen. Like you weren't the 8th seed, but you still had to do what Austin Peay did, 4 games in 4 days. You said that's a bridge that we'll cross when we get there. Well, crossing the bridge and what Redhawk fans are going to have to do if they go to Evansville. Now, 2 years ago, nobody knew you were going to make this run. You started on a Wednesday, your first game. Most people are working on a Wednesday and a Thursday, right? So you had to win those 2 games to get to Friday. I'm sure there were some people, well, if they pull it out Friday, I'll come over for the championship game. And a lot of Redhawk fans did. It's different this year. You play Friday, Saturday. You are the #1 seed. You just won the conference tournament. Fans are fired up. It's a different scenario for Redhawk fans and the potential to have a lot of red in that building at the Ford Center, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you work for, and that's what you want. You know, we talked the last time, even for our last home game, Eric, a couple players coming back after starting lineups, like, Coach, like, look at all these people. And so, and then we came out and played really, really well. So again, if we can get a really good contingency over there and a lot of support, which I think we will, because we did end up leading the league, I think, Eric, in attendance. You mentioned that before we went to the break. And a lot of that, I think, had to do with the last game of the year. But I also think that it's been a build. When, you know, you're able to capture 4 games in 4 days, and you're able to capture fans' attention for that little bit of time they're going to the NCAA tournament. This year has been different from the aspect of it's just been the slow climb, the slow build, and people, each week you've made people pay attention a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then when you do finally grab people's attention, how are you playing? And then you see it in person. You're like, man, those guys, they're connected on defense. They play hard. They share the basketball on offense. You know, I just think you're able to capture a lot more people that way because it's been this slow, gradual build up. And to now say that we've won 2 out of 3 championships in our school history under these coaches and this program and these guys, you know, you've gained some momentum of folks. And so I think that's been the most impressive thing, that we've been able to stick to what we've hung our hat on when we first got here to now, and we're seeing some of that byproduct, and that's what makes it exciting going forward, is that we'll have more people over there in Evansville than we've ever had before, because we're going to need it. There's going to come that time in the game, whether you're up 6, down 6, there's going to be that little mini run that you need to make, and you need to know that it's more than just the guys next to you. You got a whole bunch of people behind you, and I think our guys were able to feel that in our last home game, and hopefully over in Evansville.
And in a lot of the home games this year, every team played 10 conference home games.
Except Little Rock.
What's that?
Little Rock,
yeah, they had to play a neutral site game because of the death of their manager. Okay, so we are going to look at the attendance here. Every team, basically 10 home games, 11 teams. I wonder how many Redhawk fans know that SEMO led the league in home attendance in those 10 conference games. Led the league in attendance, almost 2,000 per game. And the last game certainly helped the average, sure. But it's probably been a while since SEMO led the OVC in home attendance in conference play, and it happened this year.
Yeah, and there were just a lot of stuff done behind the scenes to help pub it out. Bree Hall, who's a new person over in the administrative building, has done a great job of trying to get student engagement. I know for Little Rock we had a great student crowd. Now, Unfortunately, we lost, but I think there's a lot of students around that we can capture even more of those folks. So again, that's the exciting part. To me, Eric, none of it is pressure if this is what you're trying to do from the beginning. You know, if there's 9 people there or 9,000, we're going to continue to try to do exactly what we've done. But I think the one thing that I take away from this year, maybe that I didn't understand when I was a player and just a young assistant, is that this stuff doesn't just happen. You know, and to not just take it for granted when it does. We went 6 straight. I've been a part of, I think, 11, 12 championships and/or NCAA tournaments. And
well, is it 11 or 12? Don't act like you don't know. I guarantee you know.
Well, I don't know. I know I have like 12. I'll have 12 rings after this year. But one of those, you know, some of those years at K-State were at large. At SIU, they were all championships. So let's 6, 8. 2 here, 10. So 10 championships, 12 NCAAs, I think is what. And so anyway, those are champagne problems.
Right.
But again, That's just, I think I took it for granted, not in a purposeful or a intentional way. You just think, oh, this is just what we do. We win. And so just don't take any of that stuff for granted. I think this year's been great for our players. We've had a lot of, you mentioned the passing of the Little Rock manager and our graduate assistant, Sam, and his family, and his brother, their son, JJ, passing this year. And we had a Donate Life game this year at home. And to hear, I think the man's name was Rick or Steve. I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but to hear his story of his son and how that has helped. So I think we've had a really good opportunity to keep things in perspective as far as what we get to do and to play basketball and to compete and enjoy one another. Because again, it just at any moment it can be taken away from you. Not as serious maybe as life and death, but injury or anything else. And it doesn't mean just because you did it once, you're going to do it again. And you work like that, you prepare like that, you get the right people in place to do that, but to not take that stuff for granted. I know when we went to the NCAA tournament, to be able to coach in the NCAA tournament as a head coach, I mean, you talk about a bucket list item. To be able to come back and to win a conference championship as a head coach, because I put more value on that regular season. I mean, some of this stuff is, if you don't have a grateful and a purposeful and a big gratitude for what you get to do, I think you're going to, as soon as you go around that next one, you're going to get smacked in the face, because there are no guarantees in anything in life or in athletics. So appreciate it, and we appreciate our fans showing up the way that they did, because there was a time in that Lindenwood game to where it got a little hairy and it got down to tied or 1 point. And they push you through. So hopefully we can get that same thing in Evansville, because there's going to be that moment for either team, positively or negatively, as far as a little run. Now, what kind of reserves can you tap into? When you've got 4,000 people behind you pushing you in the right direction and really believe in you and support you, that's when you can make some special things happen.
Well, for those who are watching the show on YouTube, they already know this. For those who are listening to the show on radio, let them know. I mean, now normally you're wearing the quarter zip long sleeves. Normally you don't show off the guns, but sun's out, guns out.
These are big sleeves.
You have taken off the quarter zip to flash the guns. You've got a T-shirt there, and it appears to be a championship T-shirt. Give us the rundown on why the gun show.
Well, I don't know necessarily about a gun. Maybe more of a pipe fitter show. Or there's a couple. Are the mosquitoes out yet? I might have got a mosquito bite over here, Eric. No, I'm a 90. I love the 90s Bulls. Just being a West Suburbs of Chicago guy, and WGN every game was on. And I'm not old by any stretch.
I grew up
but
a Bulls fan too.
If you didn't watch it when it happened, you didn't get to see it. So just being sitting around the TV, just completely engulfed in that, and of course being a basketball guy. So after we had Southern Indiana had beat Edwardsville, gave us at least a share of the championship. Just laying there, just small talk with my wife, and I was like, man, I remember those Bulls T-shirts when they just had those character figureheads on there. I had one as a kid, and it was like the coolest shirt ever. And she's like, oh, because she's entrepreneur and runs her own core brand marketing company, and so she's real artsy and all that. She's like, oh, I got a kind of a program for that. If I just have the headshots, I can just make it cartoonish. And so just like that, within a couple days, or not even a couple hours, she worked on it, had it done, and she showed me a proof, and I was like, that's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. So put it together. They're for sale, and we're not taking any proceeds or anything like that. That's all going back to the program and to the team. So kind of one of those unique things. And I just think it's cool. We got our managers on here because, again, a lot of people that don't get the behind-the-scenes credit, Steve and Mason and Connor, and then our trainer, Miss Kaylin, is on here as well. So it's just kind of a unique thing, and I think the guys will really enjoy it. This is because of the shirt size that I wear. This shirt came in faster than the others, so the guys will have them on Wednesday, and the rest of the staff. And it's just kind of one of those unique, fun things, and I think it's pretty cool. All
right. So what does Coach Ryan Strome think of his caricature here?
He didn't have a choice because it was, he's all business all the time, so we had to put him in the suit. He was texting me yesterday about the itinerary, and I had to tell him, like, Ryan, you need to stand down a little bit, buddy. Sundays, this is like the first Sunday off we've had since I don't know when, so it was like, just can you give me just 12 more hours? Just give me 12 more. I'll deal with you at 8 a.m. on Monday. So we had to put him in the suit because he does a fantastic job, and the staff has done a tremendous job all season long. I know, obviously, we got great players, but it doesn't happen without good recruiting, and they're really good guys, good husbands, great fathers, and that's really, truly, at the end of the day, how you end up surviving. You think about it, Eric, tomorrow's going to be our 100th practice. We've played however many games. And this is going to be the start of a 10th-month journey from June till now. So if you're not surrounded by good people, there's no way you can make it to the end of that marathon. And so really proud of the whole group collectively, and that we can do something fun and nice and enjoy it. Because, again, like I said earlier, there's no guarantees that you ever do it again. Of course, we're going to work like mad to make sure it happens again. But let's stop and smell the roses every now and again, too.
So after 4 years in the Navy, I was at SIU. Well, I grew up a Bulls fan back in the day when it was Reggie Theus as their star player. This is before anyone had ever heard of, before they drafted Michael Jordan. Nobody had heard of Michael Jordan. So I was a Bulls fan back then, didn't win a whole lot. And then they get Jordan. They still didn't win a whole lot, but it was fun to watch them. And then as 91, 92, 93, 96, 97, 98. Now, the first three-peat was when I was at SIU in Carbondale, and we would have these watch parties in the playoffs to watch the Bulls. You're kind of saying, yeah, I remember that. But, I mean, it was everybody stopped, our whole circle of friends and others, and everybody would gather, and we would watch the Bulls win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember all those childhood memories. And after the game, then I'm a little younger than you, but after the games were played, you go out in the driveway and reenact everything Michael and Scotty and Kerr and Pip, just all the guys would do. So that was the most fun part. But I remember going down to my neighbor's house, Kyle Klatt. We'd sit there and you truly just sat there and watched the whole entire thing. And you got so nervous, and you didn't go to the fridge, or it wasn't, I'll look at my phone later. You were locked into that game. And so it's always good to have those kinds of debates, because now our players, of course, it's Steph, it's LeBron. Those are the greatest players to them. And it's like, well, when's the last time you really sat down and watched a full game? Because when I watched Michael Jordan, you watched the entire game. And so that's why it's ingrained in your brain. Now, I didn't watch just highlights on the ESPN app. I truly had to sit there and watch the entire game. And I think that made it even more enjoyable, because you're truly in every single possession. And the basketball was better back then, too.
It was fantastic. All right, so the Bulls Like Championship T-shirt. How do fans get their hands on it?
It's on Core Brand Marketing. I think we put it out on some social channels as well. Should be pretty easy click, and I know it's on the.
Okay, you're gonna have to slow down and say that again.
Core Brand Marketing website.
Okay, Core Brand.
I know it's on the SOAR Facebook side. CORE.
Okay.
Yep.
Because you're Corn with a K. I didn't know if we were playing on that.
Yeah.
Core Brand Marketing.
Core Brand Marketing. You can probably find it if you type into that, but it is also on the SOAR Facebook page as well. So it should be pretty easy to click and find that stuff. So you're seeing them in person for the first time. I think they turned out pretty good. I know our guys got a big kick out of it. There's been some comments made about the way some guys look that I can't necessarily say on this show, but it's good fun. It's good fun. A keepsake that they can have for a long time, and these are the types. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, Player of the Year and all that stuff. This is the type of stuff that, and then when you look at that ring, and because again, that piece of paper or whatever you get for them awards is going to go away. It's the bonds and the brotherhoods that you create, memories that you create along the way, and hopefully this can be one of those things that they all can look at and remember when it's 2045.
All right, it's going to be Friday night at 7 o'clock, and I just love the fact that it's totally different. First of all, we didn't know that you were going to make that run 2 years ago, but you did make the run, and we did have a nice crowd when you won the championship against Tennessee Tech, although Tech thought they had won the championship. It's just going to be the craziest title game of all time in the history of the Ohio Valley Conference. But the fans know now, and I would be shocked if we did not have just tremendous turnout at the Ford Center. For anybody who has never been been to the Ford Center. Tell them about the building. I mean, this is an elite facility.
It is. It's large, and so we need as many people there as possible to fill that space. And but I forget exactly how many it holds, but I think it's around 10,000. Yeah,
10.
so 10,000 people. But it is. It's where Evansville plays their Missouri Valley home games, and it's where the D2 National Tournament used to be as well. I don't know if it's still there. So again, a very good facility, not a bad seat in the house. One of those circular, almost like an NBA type arena, if you will. So Ohio Valley does a nice job. I've had a goal for a long time when we would pull up to that thing, Eric, of, man, I want to, just a really big dream and bucket list thing is to get to the DoubleTree. I almost even made a shirt one time of just DoubleTree, 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 because the 1 and the 2 seeds stay in that DoubleTree, and we hadn't been that, and to now be able to go over there and to stay in the DoubleTree and to really belong and to earn it the way that we earned it this year and the way that we played. Got to go over there with a ton of confidence, and I think we'll have a lot of people behind us again because it's been a slow build, and you've been able to see that we play on both sides and the way our guys act and the way that they compete. I think people identify and want to be around that and support that. So I think we'll have a good crowd over there, and now it's our job and our guys' job to go over there to compete the way they have all season long, and what happens, happens. But I feel good about our group and the way that they've gone about it all year long.
And the players will be fired up at DoubleTree. For those who aren't familiar with the DoubleTree, they make chocolate chip cookies down, and they've got them all right there at the front desk, and they keep them in a warmer. You can come down at 3 in the morning to the front desk and ask for a cookie, and you'll get a warm chocolate chip cookie. I know they'll be fired up about that.
Well, they better not be going down there at 3 a.m. Unless it's Sunday.
The day after the championship game. All right. It's one game at a time, but I will ask you this. You went to Dayton last time you made the tournament 2 years ago. If you had your choice, get a 15 seed and play a 2, or go to Dayton again and have an opportunity to notch an NCAA tournament win, because it goes in the books as an NCAA tournament win. Not only do you get the red carpet in Dayton, and I don't think people understand, it is a big deal in Dayton. Yeah. They literally had a red carpet when the bus pulled up to the hotel in Dayton 2 years ago, and all the people there welcoming, the Redhawks, and the little gift baskets and food and snacks. And I mean, it was a really big deal. That was a full building. But if you had your choice, Dayton, you got a chance to win. You win that game. Then you go to another big NCAA tournament venue. Would you rather be a Dayton team, or would you rather be a 15 and go play it 2?
I mean, you know the answer is you could put us as a 17 for all I care as long as we're in that tournament. But, honestly, strategically, financially for the league, it makes a lot more sense to be in Dayton and to get that win if you can, because again, just because you're playing a perceived common opponent, you're playing a champion too, so there's no guarantee that you're going to win just because you're in Dayton, so to speak. But it does make more strategic and financial sense if you know that you can win that 16-16 game and then go play the 1, just from a league standpoint, all the other stuff that goes on with that. But there is also something to be said of just going straight to and knowing exactly who you're playing as a potential 15. And again, matchups and styles make fights. So the 15 that you get compared to the 16 or 1 that you may get, or a 14 and a 3, there's a lot of variables there. So again, you can't. Long way to go. Let's win 2 in Evansville, of course, and then let the committee kind of put it. But I will say this, Eric. We have good numbers. I think I don't know what the net rankings were that came out this morning at 8 a.m. But before Eastern Illinois, we were 175, which is the highest our school has ever been. I think this morning, or maybe after the Eastern Illinois game, it went up to 188. So again, our non-con strength of schedule was somewhere in the 120s, 130s. In that range, so that's a really good non-con. And then our overall was unfortunately just over the 300s, which is somewhat unfortunate. So anyway, we have really good numbers is my point. So depending upon the seeding, when we went to the tournament in 23, our numbers were really poor across the board, and so that's why we got that 16. So I'm just kind of giving a little bit of context that you could potentially slide to a 15. You could potentially even slide to a 14 maybe if the other people win different leagues. And so if you have an 8 seed win or a 6 seed win from the lower level conference tournaments, that just by nature naturally push you up. So again, you got to get in before you can ever get a seed. So, but there is a lot that goes into it.
And before we get out of here, our final show, and we appreciate your time all year and before and after games. It is certainly appreciated. The fans love it. We will congratulate you on winning Coach of the Year. We know that's a lock. I am not jinxing.
Not if you let people like Hansa vote. Who knows what's going to happen?
We are not jinxing anything, but I know team success is the most preeminent for you, but that has to feel good.
If that's what it ends up being, Eric, then it is what it is. But again, just like a player, I don't come out and try to win Coach of the Year. Again, it goes back to some of those old sayings that I say and things I've learned along the way. Is I don't remember any year that Coach Weber was Coach of the Year. I have no idea. I know we had a whole lot of success under him, and I think he's one of the best coaches in men in all of college basketball. So I'm just excited to be able to, if that happens and we get that recognition, that you proved a lot of people right, not necessarily trying to prove people wrong. So I just know that I've been very, very blessed, from Coach Weber to Paul Lust to Chris Lowry, those guys that have hired me that I've worked for, and to be able to pass that on, and Dustin Yoder, Sam McMahon, Aaron Proctor, Connor Wheeler, a lot of coaches that have been with us to help build the program to get to that point. So, again, if that happens, that's great, and I'll always deflect. But, again, I think it's more of an award if that happens to be able to say, hey, Kristen, Breland, Ashton, thank you, because they sacrifice a lot, and the staff's wives and families sacrifice a lot to even have that kind of an opportunity. So to me, if that happens, Eric, it's going to be more of a outwardly thank you than necessarily an inward pat on the back.
And you do have a few things over Coach Weber. I will say that. Height, gun size, and voice strength. Man, you get to tournament time, Weber's voice is a vapor. So you got those things going for you.
He's awesome. Our relationship has grown even more since becoming a head coach, and just the text messages and the support that you get from the coaching community is pretty unique and special. I've been really, really lucky and blessed, not only with great parents and family, but also great coaches and families that have been around. And so for him to have a badge of honor and pride that one of his guys is doing well, that makes me happy too.
Did he ever tell you that? I'm sure he did. He interviewed for the SEMO job when they gave it to Gary Garner.
He did. He told me about the town hall. He had a town hall, and thank God Brady never put me in front of a town hall, because I'd probably never be sitting here.
Coach, we appreciate it. Can't wait to head over to Evansville, and that's going to be Thursday morning, right? You're going Thursday a.m.
Yeah, we kicked it around, but I think, again, sticking to with more of the routine for us, the better. And so we'll do that, and it's not too terribly of a drive. So, we'll head over Thursday morning, and we got a little kickoff deal Wednesday evening at Buckner's. People want to come and see the team and support. That'd be fantastic. And
all right, give us some details on that.
So 5:30 at Buckner's. Again, we're just kind of doing a send-off deal, ran by SOAR. Again, it's just another way to get access to our guys. We won the championship, Eric, and you haven't really been able to see us unless you came to the game in Edwardsville. So another one of those opportunities where you get to see the team maybe one last time, net cutting ceremony, if you will, type of a thing, to where people can have access to our guys one more time before we head to the conference tournament. So that'll be Wednesday night. You can just pay at the door at Buckner's and come see the guys, get an autograph, hear a little program, get some food, and just a little send-off as a token of appreciation for what the guys have done all season long, and everybody else too. There's a lot that goes into it outside of just that, including yourself and everybody else behind the scenes that makes stuff happen. So appreciate you and everybody that does what they do behind the scenes to help make this whole engine run, because it's not just the head coach or a couple players.
All right, so you can go to that particular show, get your Wings Etc. loyalty app, have some Wings food delivered right there to the big send-off. Coach, we will see you Thursday morning as we head over to Evansville. Thanks so much. Best of luck in the tournament.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, that's the Redhawks head coach, Brad Korn. Stay tuned. ESPN Radio coming up. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. Final coaches show of the season. So long from Wings.